Hi, welcome to Freediving and Spearfishing Tips. Today's subject is an important subject. It's recovery times. We're talking about the times you recover, the amount of time or how long you recover between dives. Now, today we're talking about in the ocean, and I particularly want to talk to the spearfishing part of our viewers here, because recovery times is a very important part for spearfishing. So a recovery time is a spearfisher's time, if he plans it right, to avoid a blackout or a samba. So this is what we've got to look at here. We've got to look at utilising not just recovery time to get ready for the next dive. We've got to be able to go ahead of this and think about using this time to avoid any future mishaps. So this is what we're covering today. Now, a blackout is loss of consciousness due to lack of oxygen. Simple, straightforward. Dives too long, okay? And he runs out of oxygen, blacks out. He may black out on the way up or on the surface, and either way, if he's not looked after, he can drown and, be a problem. Okay. Samba is a partial blackout, or actually its correct term is loss of motor control. You'll hear of people calling it LMC, loss of motor control. It's when the oxygen is so low the cells stop talking to each other, and the person can be quite conscious at the time, will have uncontrolled action. Something like that could be a samba, or a samba could be a twitching muscle like that, a very light samba. But it's called a samba because in its big things it could be a bit like the samba dance. Okay, so it's just a colloquial term used to talk about a loss of motor control. Either way, a blackout and a loss of motor control can be drowning for the diver. So that's what we're looking at here, how we can think and work through recovery times to make the most of our diving, as well as avoid blackouts and sambas. Freediving schools and courses often recommend twice your dive time as a minimum recovery time. So the important thing to know here, that a minimum recovery time is not your all-day recovery time. And sometimes it's construed that, I did twice my dive time, and work at that level. And for most people, unless you're absolutely a high-tuned athlete, twice your dive time is not long enough. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that you're going to find that when you go down without enough recovery, you're going to find halfway into the dive and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I'm having a struggle here. This will often occur when you've not recovered enough and you think you have. And diving without a computer often leads to this. You're diving along, diving, you come up, all right, and you think, I'm fully recovered. Yep, feels good. You go back down, but you weren't fully recovered. Perhaps your heart rate's still a little high, or you haven't fully recovered your oxygen debt. And you're down there. And the next thing, all of a sudden you realise you need to surface. You're not going to be a long dive. So twice your recovery time as a minimum is fine. But as a dive time recovery all day long, I recommend 3 times. And I'll go into a little bit more why 3 times. But the first thing you've got to know is you're better working, not at your minimum, but at something that gives you a little bit of leeway either way. Not every day you go out there is your crack a day. Sometimes you go out there and you're dehydrated, you might have a cold, or you might have something happening, you might be browned off about something, and you're not really on you're not focused, You could be lacking sleep. How often do we hit the sack at midnight and get up at 4 to go diving? You could be lacking in sleep. So you might get away on one day with some really good diving with minimum recovery. However, that doesn't mean this is now your normal. The idea being here is that, you start running like that and close to the edge. It only takes one mistake when you're close to the edge to go overboard. you know. So in this case here, 3 times gives you that leeway. And now I've tested this on myself, and twice time I can do it, and I can do a fair bit of it. However, at the end of the day, I'm not doing 25-meter dives. I'm not comfortable. I'm struggling on 20-meter divers. Now, I might be getting on a little long in the tooth, you know. However, if I do 3 times, I'm still pulling 25-meter plus dives at the end of the day. So I'm not talking here to someone who's new and who's struggling to get past 10 or something like that. These things will come to you if you just take your time. But I'm talking here about the person, the intermediate diver, who's found out that he can get great fish if he actually spends enough time down the bottom there. But he hasn't worked out, what his limits are. And this is the diver that we will have trouble with. Okay, so we need to know here that we want to give ourselves a bit of leeway, that even if you make a mistake, you can actually deal with it. Now, of course, you have a good dive buddy with you. He's going to be watching you. You're going to be watching him, and you've got a little leeway in that. But, it only takes one blackout to disturb everyone's day. Your dive buddy, one blackout, one samba, you should be on the boat for the rest of the day. You've gone too far. You've flunked it up. So this is an important thing. You develop such an oxygen debt that you have a blackout or a big samba. I'm not talking a twitching eye or something like that, but a big samba. You develop such an oxygen debt. You need to be out. You're the boatie. I'm afraid to say the captain of the boat should lay the law down on that and go, no, you're out of the water for the day, because you cannot continue with that. You will. And if you don't become a statistic because of luck or whatever, the person copying you, the person who's looking at you and seeing that you're damn good, starts copying your diving, that person will become a statistic. Okay, so this is what we've got to look at. We've got to lead by example. And the divers who are diving the good depths lead by example. Now, we're covering one subject here, and that is recovery times. So give yourself some leeway. Don't just terrorize your diver with a big samba on the surface, and then now he's going to have to feel uncomfortable telling you can't dive for the rest of the day. You get what I'm saying here? So it's important here that you take responsibility for your limits, and one of the key ways to do this is your recovery time. Now, what should you be doing when you're recovering? The first thing you get up there is you surface. You want to handle your oxygen debt as fast as possible. You will automatically get rid of the carbon dioxide that's making you feel bad. That will happen very fast. One big purge of carbon dioxide. You're feeling better already, but you're not handled your oxygen debt as yet. So it's a bit like running a race. You're not going to run a race and stop and then not deep breathe. So don't think that at the end of the dive, when you come up on the ocean, the surface, that your real deep breathing is hyperventilating. It's not. It's handling your debt, your oxygen, getting oxygenated from when you were not oxygenated, when you had a debt. So breathe strong. Now, too often, and I see this at the pool in training, but I also see it in the ocean, where people are a little casual about taking their breath. And I think the important thing to know here is that taking a full breath is very important for the best dive you can get. We're not like opera singers where we just have to have a full breath and we can sneak in a breath in between words. No, we can't sneak in a breath. So we might as well maximize our full breath. So here we go. On the surface, you have 3 things to do. First one, handle your oxygen debt. Deep breathing as much as you need until you can relax and you'll no longer feel the urge to puff. That's your first step. Does that mean you're ready for a dive? Too often we think, I'm ready to go back down, but you're not. Why? Your heart's still racing, your heart's pounding, you haven't fully recovered your prior state. So you need to continue on the surface until your heart rate drops, until you're relaxed. There could have been sharks down there, you could have been a bit of current that you're fighting against. You just have to get back your equilibrium so that you are calm at spirit and fully handled on your oxygen. Okay? And your heart rate is back down. Quite often you come up after a dive, and when you dive surface, you're getting back your breath. Your heart rate's popped up a bit, so you get that back. So there's first step, second step. Okay, now once you're back to full equilibrium, you're rested and you're ready to dive again, the third step is 3 to 4 long, slow, deep breaths. Now, I've talked with many divers over the years, and quite a few of the old hands will tell you interesting breathe-ups. This term, breathe-up, often is a term that hides hyperventilation. So you've got to understand, you've got to start understanding what's going on in the chest here. Hyperventilation is the name of something that is any breathing that is more than the body currently needs. And so you understand the best dives a free diver can get in distance and depth is, they stand at the pool before they do a 200 meters or something like that, distance in the pool. They'll tidal breathe, just like breathing normal, and then take a deep breath. And this has a huge dive response. Now, this isn't suitable, it can be suitable, but it's not everyday diving that you're going to dive for 8 hours or 6 hours in a day. But it gives you the understanding that you do not need to have a huge breathe up, 1 minute of deep breathing or something like that, or 20 deep breaths, or, you might even have it sort of explained away. 20 long, slow, deep breaths. Well, you don't need 20 long, slow, deep breaths. You're probably 100% oxygen saturated after 3 or 4. And in fact, for example, my son has 11 litres, I think he has, when he's fully taken a breath. He's fully oxygen saturated after 1 breath. He's got 11 litres he fills up with. So you get what I'm saying? It's an individual thing, but you've got to understand that 20 or 10 or whatever breathe up will make you feel comfortable in the dive. But all you've done is you've destroyed or impaired the trigger that makes you want to breathe, and that's your carbon dioxide, by getting rid of a lot of carbon dioxide. So rather than do that, you need to go, okay, the smart way here is experience enough of the carbon dioxide to tell you when you're at a certain point of the dive, so you can make an intelligent decision when to come up. That's what we're looking at. So 3 to 4 long, slow, deep breaths is sufficient. So it may not be so comfortable, but it's a much safer plan.